Welcome to the Scoop World Order Crazy Tuesday edition. We weren't expecting all these fireworks today on the Ohio State recruiting beat, but there were a lot. Dylan Stewart was lost. Nigel Glover was one. We're going to go over all of that with our main man, Bill the Bank Greene. What is the fallout? Who do we go after next? KJ Bolden's coming up. How you feeling about that? Edric Houston. A lot of big time stuff coming up, and camp starts on Thursday. Thank God football is here. We don't have to freak out about every little recruiting battle any longer. That being said, as always, thank you guys for tuning in. We're over 20,000, so we appreciate you guys. We're on a surge right now on BuckeyeScoop.com in terms of new members. Thank you to all of our new members. We appreciate you guys. If you guys aren't members, now's the time. Camp is starting. We're about to be cranking it up. We are sourced up. We got some really good stuff coming for the first week of camp. We're going to be ready to go, bringing you the goods. We're going to be talking recruiting. And there's no one better in the world to talk recruiting with than my man, Bill the Bank Greene. Bank, you probably thought you're going to have a nice day of playing golf, relaxing today, and then the bomb dropped Dylan Stewart to South Carolina kind of out of nowhere. We get Nigel Glover to kind of cap the day. What were your thoughts? Did you see this commitment coming? He was not scheduled, and then all of a sudden, your boy Whitfong and those two guys, they changed the crystal balls at like 8:32 and 8:33 a.m., and then the poor interns did not change Bill Kurelic, so he got a miss on his crystal ball. But, like, what were you thinking when you're like, oh, God, here come the crystal balls being flipped?
Well, you knew it was over at that point, and yeah. I knew I was wrong. And, well, those guys were wrong, too. I mean, you can't put a ball pick in and, and then get it right 12 minutes later. They were obviously tipped off, and that's all well and good. When I worked for Scout or 24/7 and I got tipped off, I switched my crystal balls too. But I was surprised by this. I never thought Dylan Stewart would go to South Carolina, no matter how much money they offered. I just didn't see that happening. I mean, I've been to South Carolina before. If you're going to go somewhere in that area, go to Clemson. Yes. Clemson's beautiful. The campus is great. They win national titles. They develop D linemen. I mean, it just didn't make any sense to me. And sometimes recruiting, sometimes it doesn't make sense. When you lose a kid, if you lose Edric Houston to Bama or Georgia, or KJ Bolden goes to Georgia, I mean, I get that. But for a big-time kid, and this kid's a big-time kid, Dylan Stewart's big-time, for him to pick South Carolina, it just didn't make any sense at all. And, people can say, well, it's NIL. Well, Ohio State has NIL too. It's legal now. So if Ohio State can't outdo South Carolina in anything, I mean, that's a shocker to me. So I didn't see this coming. Never dreamed this kid would choose South Carolina over Ohio State or Georgia or, anywhere. He could have went anywhere. Plus, he's a D.C. kid. He is not a Southern kid, per se. Oh. Okay, he's a D.C. kid. It's crazy, but and I'm sure NIL factored into this. Of course it does. It factors into everyone right now. You're crazy if you don't. They're giving out free money. Would have factored in for you. But I just couldn't see South Carolina offering so much humongous money that it kind of counteracts the NFL development you're going to get at Ohio State or at Georgia or at Bama. I don't know, man. This was a shocker to me. No doubt about it. And it hurts. I mean, Ohio State needs this kid. They don't sack the quarterback anymore. Okay. Yeah. It's been a long time since Ohio State has really sacked the quarterback. And if they don't get to the quarterback next year, that'll be 4 straight years of not really being a factor in terms of sacks, where Ohio State used to be in the top 3 or 4 in sacks. And last year, I think they were 14. And it's been a trend. That wasn't just 1 year. They've had 3 years in a row now of sack totals not being where they have to be. We're in the passing area of college football. You got to knock down the other quarterback, and you got to not get your quarterback knocked down. And that's where the game is right now. And this is a loss.
Yeah, I totally agree with the sacking of the quarterback, because the way we score points when we're up 49-0 at half versus Purdue and Michigan State. You think it would be like Sac City in the second half, and for whatever reason, we just don't get home like the way we used to. It's not like the old covered wagon back when I was beating Akron 7-3 my senior year. Like we weren't expecting them to throw it 40 times in the second half like these teams have to do against us. But if you had to evaluate, and I know like it's easy, like we just got whipped. I mean, because Larry Johnson's catching a lot of heat, and I'm like, well. Larry Johnson, I mean, he can catch heat, but I mean, we got Justin Scott too, like a month ago, which nobody saw that one coming. So it's not like he's just pulling a bunch of 3-star like pluggers. Like, I mean, he pulled a guy that
like they do on the O-line when no one ever minds about that. If Larry Johnson was taking the, 3 of the top 6 defensive linemen in Ohio, people would be, I would hope they'd be ticked.
Oh my God. We'd have no chance.
What would the equivalent be on the D line of taking Mark Nave and the 2 Armstrong twins? I mean, so I don't know, but that's beside the point. The point is on the D line, Justin Scott was a huge win, and Dylan Stewart's a huge loss. And see, I'm not one that really freaks out until all the hay's in the barn. You know what I mean? When we get into February, and I know everybody they've signed, then we could go back over every kid, who they got, who they didn't get. Now's really not the time. It's a day where you complain for sure because this was a loss. But let's see who he pulls. If he pulls Edric Houston, in another couple of weeks, and all's forgiven until he misses the next guy, then you're mad. That's the way this stuff goes. You know what I mean? But so I always look at it as, it's the same as games. There's wins and there's losses. You got to stack more wins than you're stacking losses. Today was a loss. Justin Scott was a win. Aaron Scott was a huge win. So at the end of the day, you've got to stack a lot of your number one guys that you want more than anyone. Okay? This was a loss today, and there's no way to sugarcoat it. This was a huge loss.
Yeah, and like for me, and I know that you're less of an Ohio State fan than most people that cover the team, but is it different because if we lose this kid to Georgia or Bama or Michigan, we're gonna see that kid in the playoffs again. But like when you go to South Carolina, it's kind of like you're kind of just off in the ether for 3 years or whatever until you declare for the pros. But is that different in your mind? Because like if this kid goes to Georgia or Bama, it's like a different level of pain to me than South Carolina. It's just weird because I'm like, I don't know why, if I'm a D lineman, I want to go somewhere where I've got Jordan. If I go to Georgia, I got Jordan Davis next to me. He's 6'7", 350, runs a 4.7. That's my that's my 3 technique. So no one's ever going to double team me. You go to South Carolina, man, you're going to be getting triple teamed every snap. So that's the thing I don't get is like, I just think that, man, you're a D lineman, man. You get some good detail. You get Mike Hall next to you. Your life's a lot easier than when you get some turd who's 8th. South Carolina's the 8th best team in the SEC, probably. They're not competing for the SEC East against Georgia, Florida. Does that factor in at all? Like, because I'm just like, it's just weird. Like some kids are just weird in my opinion when they don't go to. If I'm this kid, I'm going to Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, and that's kind of it.
Or Michigan makes sense.
Or Michigan, yeah.
Their defenses have been better than Ohio State's defenses recently. So,
go
to one of the factories if you want to be. And I imagine NFL has got to be the goal for Dylan Stewart.
Oh yeah.
Go to one of these factories that puts out NFL D linemen. It makes no sense. I never would have believed that a kid would choose South Carolina, over Ohio State or Georgia or he could have went anywhere in America. Anyone would have taken it. And I'm sure NIL was a factor, but, it's not like at Ohio State they were giving him McDonald's coupons or Georgia would have had him, pay for his own room. I don't know. To me, it was weird, and I think weird's the right word to use here. It didn't make any sense. I said I had to see it to believe it, and I saw it, and now I believe it. So the kid did choose South Carolina over a lot of these football factories.
Does I get your temperature on KJ Bolden because everyone's dying to know about KJ Bolden.
Yeah,
how are you feeling about KJ Bolden right now?
I mean, I wish I could be, wish I knew, I don't know. And I did speak to KJ Bolden. It was an off the record conversation back in February in Florida. He did not know I was in the media. And by the time I identified myself as that, he'd already kind of said some stuff. So it was very pro Ohio State, no doubt about it. But that was months ago. So, I don't know. These kids are good right now. And just because you flip your crystal ball pick to the right school 9 minutes before the announcement comes out, that's a miss. Okay, I'm sorry. Stevie's my guy. You missed this one. Okay, I missed it. Okay, but you missed it too, and so did Brian Doan. You can't switch it when, the edit comes in and it's like, oh yeah, I'm picking South Carolina. It's a tough year this year, man. There's been a lot of misses, by a lot of people that are a lot better at this than I am, and the kids are getting so good at this stuff. KJ Bolden, I think Ohio State's in it. Am I calling him to Ohio State? Nope. What school would I call him to? I don't know. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff out there about Auburn. There's a lot of Florida State stuff out there. To me, Georgia makes all the sense in the world, but he's a Buford kid in Georgia, and those kids don't always go to Georgia. So this one is it's coin flip city, and I don't even know. I know he's very pro Ohio State. I know that for a fact. But, we'll see. We're going to find out soon.
Next up, Edric Houston. It's like we got like 5-star just coming down the pike. Yeah. He's in the middle of August. How are you feeling about him? I love his film. I think he's fantastic.
I do too. I would rather have Stewart than Houston, but I'll take either of them and, rob Dairy Marts to get either of them. But Houston to me is Cam Hayward. Stewart is that pure blur off the edge that I think they really need. I think Stewart is potentially what we thought Zach Harrison was going to be, that he never became that. And that's what they need. Although, man, that Edric Houston, to me, he's a Cam Hayward type, move him around. He can play inside, he can play outside. Yeah, he's next up. I mean, and Larry Johnson, he's on the clock here. He's had a lot of misses lately, a lot of misses of guys that I think 7 or 8 years ago, Larry Johnson would have got these guys. I really do. So is he slipping? Is it time to replace him? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he's under the microscope right now. And the one thing with Ryan Day, man, he ain't scared to change coaches. I mean, Ryan Day has made more coaching changes in 4 years than Jim Tressel made the whole time he was at Ohio State. That Tressel staff stayed together forever. Same dudes, not this guy.
Fact.
Ryan Day will move anybody out at any time. So, Larry's on the clock right now, I think. I think he is. I think he's feeling some heat tonight. And you are in the business. LeBron James said it best about NBA basketball, and it applies to every sport. It's a miss or make game. That's what it is. You know what I mean? It was NIL or it was this or it was that. No. Did you get the purchase order or the other guy get the purchase order? And when you're not getting as many purchase orders as Ryan Day thinks you should be getting, you're going to walk. He has shown that. I mean, look at all the coaches that have moved on in a very short period of time under Ryan Day. So I think Larry Johnson's feeling some heat tonight. And I think he should. Pop Edric Houston, flip Lightfoot back, and then it gets cold. He cools down. But, man, this business is so competitive. It's what have you done for me lately? Nobody cares what Larry Johnson did with Chase Young. Those days are over. It's now. And it's Mateo Uiagalelei and Damon Wilson and Keon Keeley and now Dylan Stewart. And your scorecard is only as good as, what you've done on the past couple holes. You don't care what you did on Thursday. So Larry Johnson's I think he's feeling the heat right now. I don't think Ryan Day's too happy right now. I mean, this was the guy they needed.
Yeah, I mean, we were around when Tony Alford whiffed on those running backs, man, and we knew it was heating up in the WAC. I mean, it's, we've heard it. I mean, he gets cranked up, man, when you miss on these guys. And the hard part for Larry is like there's just no good defensive linemen in Ohio generally, so you can't get those 3-star guys and hope to develop him. Like
but I mean, if you want to compare, on the O line, they've taken the Armstrong twins and they've taken Mark Nave. Now, Larry Johnson could have taken Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson's more highly rated than the Armstrong twins or Mark Nave. You're shooting at different targets here.
Yeah.
When I can make the argument that Justin Fry he got 3 Ohio O linemen. I don't know that any of them are among the best in Ohio. I can make the argument that Hamilton's better. Satterwhite better.
Satterwhite for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, Larry Johnson doesn't get to shoot at those targets.
No.
He's got to shoot at the high targets. He doesn't get to shoot at Brian Robinson.
Yeah.
And that's probably a different topic for a different day.
But it's a valid point. I mean, when you're shooting for top 5 defensive ends and you're missing on them, I mean, and you're losing them to.
Harder
oh God,
yeah. It's a lot harder to get Dylan Stewart than it is to get Mark Nave.
How much of it is? Because we know how the game works now. Like these kids get paid to go on unofficial visits. These kids, like, it's not legal. It happens. Like, is that so? Because Ohio State doesn't do it, allegedly. They don't do it. They claim that's their big thing. They don't do it. And you see these kids go on 20 unofficial visits,
back to the same school 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how many times do you have to see Florida State? It's like
3 or 4 times.
How bad does that hurt Ohio State that they have this kind of holier than thou, we're not going to cheat mentality? Because, I mean, to me, those visits are expensive. Like, if you got to take a weekend and mom and dad and airfare and, a hotel room and plus, they're probably wining them. I mean, those are thousands of dollars every trip. And not to mention, you got to pay them for their time. It's like the old camp fees back 30 years ago when you'd hire the really good high school head coach and you'd pay him $5,000 to give a 1-minute speech at a camp or something, or $10,000 or whatever it was. Like, is that hurting us because we're not in that world?
I don't think it. Dylan Stewart, how many times was he at South Carolina? He took his official a couple weeks ago. He went back over this weekend for their get together.
I think he was there twice in July, I think.
Yeah. So, but I don't think that makes him commit to that school. You know what I mean? You can visit that school 5 times, take a bag home every time, and then commit somewhere else.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't think it's that. I mean, to me, I have always been able to dial it down to the bare minimum. You get the purchase order. What excuse is Larry Johnson using right now with Ryan Day that's working? Mark Fletcher got absolutely, and I think he did the right thing going to Miami. Mark Fletcher got paid second round money to go to Miami. It was huge, the money he got. Did that cut any slack with Ryan Day, with Tony Alford? It did not.
No.
So you either get the purchase order or the other guy gets the purchase order. So no, I don't know that it's, paying kids to come on unofficial visits is the key, because I don't know that helps you land that kid in the end.
Yeah.
You could bring him in 6 times and pay him $1,000 each time he comes, and then he commits to a different school. Where are you at then?
Oh, so yeah.
No, I don't think that's the ticket. And I don't think Dylan Stewart was at South Carolina 4, 5, 6 times.
Yeah.
The one that gets my attention is, why does J.J. Smith go back to Florida every other day?
Yeah.
He should have an apartment there by now in Gainesville. He's in
Gainesville and Tallahassee. I mean, he's in Florida State last weekend. I mean, it's like, he might have an apartment. We got a super chat. Appreciate you. Without naming the player or school, can you tell us who the highest confirmed NIL deals? I know Quinn Ewers got a 7-figure deal for memorabilia. That's a lot of these quarterbacks are getting these deals where they give up their autograph rights for 5 years or whatever, and they get multiple millions of dollars. So I know that one for a fact. The kombucha one didn't work. These guys, they get local deals. Like CJ Stroud made millions while he was here doing stuff with, a lot of the shot and scene corporations, Express, Value City, anything you see these guys, you see them putting on their Instagram, they're getting paid for. So, but I know Quinn's was multiple millions of dollars, but hey,
he was the number one quarterback in America by far. So he was in a different realm than what some O lineman that's committing to Auburn is going to get. I don't know. I wish I knew numbers. We talked to our SFE guys. They're involved in a lot of this stuff, and I don't know that even they know specifics. A lot of these things are promises. How do you? What's signed? What's guaranteed? You watch that Miami stuff fly apart right now. With John Ruiz under investigation right now, he's the sugar daddy at Miami. He's in a lot of trouble right now, I think. So
the feds are knocking on his door.
Mark Fletcher going to get his money? You know what I mean? I don't know. I hope he got it up front, which I don't think he did. We'll see. I mean, this is all so new, this NIL stuff. We don't have a kid that we can talk to that spent 5 years at A&M and can tell us, this is what was promised, and this is what I got. We don't know. It's too new right now to know what is exactly who's getting what. I know what's being promised, but these aren't signed contracts. Like when you sign a deal with the Indiana Pacers, when you sign a deal with them, I know what you're going to get. That contract's guaranteed. You sign an NIL deal, man, I don't know.
Yeah.
Are we going to see a kid, Samson Okunlola, do I know that he's going to get every nickel was promised to him at Miami with NIL now, the NIL leader down there being investigated? He may get nothing. And you may see Samson in the transfer portal real soon.
Oh, easily.
I don't know. It's too new. This is so new, and it's so Wild West that it's really hard to answer that question that guy just asked. It's hard to answer that intelligently.
Yeah, and
they seem like promises more than they're like when you sign CJ Stroud's contract with the NFL. I know what he's going to get.
Yeah,
but these NIL deals, I don't know if you're going to get what you're promised.
Yeah, and quarterbacks are in a different pantheon because with the way collectibles and trading cards are, if you want to give up your rights to get some upfront money, and then you become the next Pat Mahomes, you might be, up the creek because you like, man, my rights have been worth tenfold if I become Mahomes and I win 2 Super Bowls and I'm 26 or whatever he is. So it's like that's what they're banking on. Not everyone's going to turn to Pat Mahomes, obviously, but quarterbacks are a different league than the rest of the team combined because nobody collects linebackers, or DBs. They collect quarterbacks. So let's jump to Nigel Glover real quick. This is a weird one, Bank. I mean, we didn't want him at first. Goes to the worst team in the Big Ten. They were 1-11 last year, or 1-10, or whatever they were. They were terrible last year. I think they won like one game. Coach gets whacked. Honestly, one of the most shocking turn events ever. Pat Fitzgerald, I thought would be there forever because he's turned down big NFL things. Now he's in a heated lawsuit with his alma mater, and so Nigel Glover decides to dip out, which I completely get because he's jumping off the Titanic before it goes to the bottom of the ocean right now. So, and then he comes out smelling like a rose and lands at his dream school. Like, have you ever seen anything like this in your life of all your recruiting where they don't want you and then you go somewhere and then the nuclear bomb gets dropped and then you get to go to your dream school?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me because he was visiting schools here, in the past week that wanted nothing to do with him. Like, not just 3 years ago, but a few months ago. Like he signed in December. It's only August right now. You know what I mean? What is he? Have they seen him? Have they seen him work out? Have they seen him in pads? Have they seen him run? Has he been to their camp? No. I don't get it, really. I mean, I guess if you have room and you take a kid and maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. But this guy ended up, Michigan State, Ohio State. He hit the lottery with Pat Fitzgerald getting fired is the greatest thing ever happened to this kid.
Oh yeah. Do you see?
State, I mean, who is Ohio State? I think he's going to be a linebacker at Ohio State. I don't think he's a safety at Ohio State. I think he has to play linebacker. And who have they recruited at linebacker recently? Not much.
Nobody. We didn't get anybody last year. Zero.
No. And this year, Peyton Pierce, I like Peyton Pierce, but I don't think he's the same type of player as Nigel Glover. I think Nigel Glover would play the Steel Chambers spot. Peyton Pierce will play the Tommy Eichenberg spot. So, I don't know. Good for the kid. Good for the kid. He hit the lottery here.
Yeah.
You didn't have to play for a dog crap team. That, now he's given up that Northwestern education, but a degree from Ohio State or Michigan or wherever, it's going to serve him very well.
Yeah.
So
it's all the same.
Yeah, good for that. Good for him.
Yeah. You'd rather go to Ohio State, be the hometown hero, and enjoy football. Because, I mean, you go to Ohio State, you're going to be 11-1, 10-2 every year. You go to Northwestern, you're going to be 0-12. They're going to be 0-12 this year. Then they're going to fire everybody, and you have no idea who they're bringing in as their new head coach. And you might hate it even worse. So you're going to go sit through the worst season in school history because they're going to be awful. Like, they were already bad last year with Fitzgerald and Skoronsky and all. They had a first-round left tackle, and they were terrible last year. And then you lose the guy who's their Archie Griffin, Pat Fitzgerald. They whack him, and there's going to be this lawsuit, and there could be who knows what if the NCAA does anything about all the bad stuff going on or whatever. Once they open up that rock and they start investigating, you have no idea what they're going to find. I mean, so I think he came out smelling like a rose. I've never seen anything like it. Camp starts on Thursday. I know that you don't care about training camp just because training camp is kind of boring. What group has the most pressure on it? I think I know where you're going to go with this, but I'm just dying to know if you're going to say.
Well, there's two. I mean, number one, you have to have a quarterback in these day and times. I know Georgia won back-to-back with a walk-on. I don't advise anybody to follow that path. So quarterbacks, you got to have a quarterback. But, Ryan Day's always been able to put quality QB out there on the field. It's O-line for sure. You put 3 in the NFL last year. 3 NFL O-linemen walked out the door. They were your 3 best O-linemen. And who are you replacing them with? I have no idea. I don't think Justin Fry knows who's starting right now. I don't think Ryan Day knows who's starting right now. So that's a concern. When I judge these teams, we've done this stuff with Phil Steele before. And, to me, it's head coach, quarterback, defense, and O-line. I don't have running back or wide receivers or linebacker. O-line is that important to me. And when it's kind of twofold this year. Not only are you breaking in a new quarterback who, whether it's Devin Brown, or Kyle McCord, neither of them done anything. And then they don't get to play behind DeJuan Jones and Paris and Whippler. They get to play behind I don't know who, and they don't know who either. Ohio State doesn't know who. So you got a lot of unknowns right now. Unknown at quarterback and unknown at O-line is not really a recipe that, I don't think it's something Ryan Day's comfortable with right now. I think he liked it better when he had Paris and DeJuan and Whippler and CJ. I think he slept a lot better than how he is right now. So we'll see. To me, it's twofold. QB and O-line. Wide receivers, they the very best. I like the running back room a lot. They got a lot of quality there. But, man, if you're not blocking for those guys and say the quarterback pees down his leg and the O-line's not good, well, you're going to lose 3 or 4 games. This is an unbelievably tough schedule, too. And I've made fun of the schedule over the past couple of years. It's been cream puff city. Not this year, man. Not this year. At Notre Dame, at Wisconsin, at Michigan, Penn State at home. This is going to be a really good Penn State team.
Yeah.
And I know James Franklin can never beat Ohio State, but streaks end. Ask Harbaugh. So I think it's really tough for Ohio State. I think if they can navigate this schedule at a 12-0 or 11-1, I think that would really be a real feather in Ryan Day's cap. And I think if you're an 11-1, 12-0 team with this schedule, then you're absolutely national championship caliber.
Oh, yeah. If he goes 11-1 with this schedule, it's the best coaching job of his career by far. It's not even close. Because that Michigan team, Jim Harbaugh says they're going to break the NFL draft record. They're going to have 20 guys drafted. That's how confident he is in the talent. And I don't know. But they've got a lot of guys. They got their whole line back. They got some transfer guys in. 2 good running backs, good defense. We'll see. You got to go.
Wonder at QB. People can say what they want about JJ. JJ knows how to win.
He beat us last year.
They've put out some really good O-lines the past couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
Defensively, they've been really, really good. They lose coordinators. It doesn't matter. They bring in another one, and he's, the best defensive coordinator in football. What they've done the past couple of years, I didn't see it coming. That's for sure.
No.
I mean, Jim Harbaugh wasn't that long ago was interviewing with the Vikings on National Signing Day. It's the biggest middle finger I've ever seen a college coach give his university. If Ryan Day does that this year, if Ryan Day goes and interviews with Denver on signing day this year, he will be fired. I've never seen a college coach do that to his school before, like Harbaugh did to Michigan. And they get back-to-back playoff appearances out of it and back-to-back romps over Ohio State. Make no sense to me. I don't get it. I can't explain it. Don't ask. I don't. He didn't want to be there. When he did want to be there, he couldn't win. Now he doesn't want to be there. He looks to get out of there. And he goes to the playoffs back-to-back years and pounds Ohio State both times. Makes no sense.
It's the craziest thing I've ever seen, honestly. Well, it's a big year coming up. Well, Bank, we're going to wrap this thing up. I appreciate you, brother, as always. Thank you. We had Bill the Bank Greene on tonight. Appreciate you guys tuning in. The Bank is exclusive to BuckeyesScoop.com. If you guys enjoy his content, appreciate you guys, as always, tuning in. BuckeyesScoop.com. Get your subscription. We are crazy busy right now. Busiest message board I think I've ever seen. I mean, this is a wild day today. Camp starts Thursday. We've got NFL football on Thursday. The Browns, Dwan Jones makes his rookie debut. We'll be watching that. We appreciate you guys so much tuning in. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, and click that little alert bell. Get us cranked up. We appreciate you guys so much, as always. If you enjoy this content, I'll tell you, our message board is crazy. Jump on it, subscribe to it. It's the best money you'll ever spend as a companion to your college football season. So thank you so much, Scoop family, and thank you, Buckeye Nation. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.